guys, it is Reed and welcome back to a super dope video. Today I'm going to be doing a color change tutorial, but a very special color change. This is an original color change of mine called the Rotary change. This is a super awesome color change. I had a few people asking me about it back when I did the Chateau deck review, because I did that in the intro. And this is something that is pretty cool. I think it looks pretty neat. It was something I kind of came up with just fiddling around, and I came up with a couple cool uses for it, different applications, and hopefully from that intro you can get a good sense of what it looks like. It's a pretty sweet color change. It's not too hard to do, but it looks pretty nice. So it's called the Rotary change. Just for that spinning motion is where it got its name. I'm very excited to teach this to you guys. I don't do a lot of color changes, but this one is special to me, and so I would love to show you guys this. I know you guys are gonna love this because for whatever reason my color change videos or tutorial videos tend to do really well for color changes. But yeah, this is one I'm excited for. I got a multi-card change, a way to change it into any card that you want specifically rather than just a random one. It's pretty cool, and it uses a principle I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with, but the handling is just pretty neat. It makes it really look pop, and it's pretty nice to look at. It's pretty fancy. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into the Rotary change tutorial. All right guys, for the demo of the Rotary change, we'll take the top card here, which is the 10 of hearts. I'll just take it and leave it about halfway down the middle of the deck. You can see that. Nothing in my hands. That's the 10 of hearts. When I kick it through, it somehow changes right into the 5 of clubs. All right, time for some exposure on the Rotary change. So we'll take the top card here, which is the 2 of diamonds. And we'll leave that somewhere in the middle of the deck. All right, you can see that's the 2 of diamonds. There's nothing else in my hand, but as I push it through, one card comes out and it is changed into the 9 of spades. All right, so here's the breakdown. So as you guys can tell from that, this color change uses the plunger principle, which is a pretty cool little principle. There's a lot of actually cool little unique applications, but this is one thing I've came up to use it with. So the plunger principle is the idea of being able to push some cards through the deck using friction of other cards. So if you sandwich one or more cards with 2 other cards and you push it through the deck, that other card is going to come out the back. The same amount that those cards were sticking out is how far this one will come back. If the friction's right and there isn't any slip, it should come out the same amount as the other way it was sticking out. So there's a lot of different applications for the plunger principle. A lot of them are like sort of in-jog applications, or like sort of instant jog idea like that. But for me, I actually, before I knew what the plunger principle was, I had already figured out that you could do this, kind of just on my own messing around. And I always thought that there should be something I can do with it, but I never knew what besides like just using it as like a jog above or below the card. And I was playing around with it, and I was like, oh, that kind of could be a cool color change. And then I had the problem of, well, if you push the card in like this, and then it comes out like this, it looks weird, it doesn't line up properly, and I mean, that's not exactly, it's missing something, right? So eventually I figured out the grip and how I could do this nice, really nice like rotation around the card as I push it through and have it change, and it looks really nice, and it brings the card that's here back into the same spot, so it feels more like a color change, right? Rather than just the card is changing, or the card is switching, I should say. It feels, because this card goes into the deck and then it comes back to that same spot that it started, it feels like this is that card changing into a new card, right? Which is essentially what we're trying to accomplish with the color change, okay? So you sort of have this nice fluid motion where you can bring this hand around like this, and in one fluid motion, that card changes in an instant. So, time for the breakdown. Essentially, I'm gonna go over just the mechanics of the change, and then we'll go over how to get a card into that position if you're actually gonna use this, how to get into that position. So, start, you're gonna need a double lift. Pretty straightforward, so whatever method you use to get a double lift. And you wanna hold it in this sort of straddle grip, okay? So, pinky finger and index are straddling it on the side near the top, and then the index and ring kind of resting there, and the thumb here. So it's almost like a biddle grip, it's more of a straddle grip. And this is gonna allow you to come in from the side and get that card, or get one card in between these two, okay? So usually when I do this, I'll you know, do my push off, get the double, and then I'll grip it at these corners, so the top right, bottom left, with the middle and the thumb. I'll pull it over with the index, spin it, and then these fingers can shoot to the side and these on top, and I can get it in this position. Very similar to the drop switch, right? We're setting up for the drop switch that I taught in one of the last videos. So my favorite way to load this is like this. So I riffle, get to my point. You can bring this thumb just back up, don't close the deck, but back so it touches the top, right? I'm just touching the top. When you pull back down, that first card's gonna come with you. It's pretty amazing. You just bring that thumb up and then come back down, and the first card comes with you, and you're perfect. And it's so easy to take that card and fit it right on because you have a gap on both sides. So again, all you're doing, riffling, when you're ready, you just bring this thumb up. You just have to contact this top pile. Look, I'm not even doing any force, and you can see that card lift away. So you come down and the card just sticks with you, right? Riffle, lift up, and the card comes with you. Like, it's so awesome, so easy, and you can never really mess up the load that way. So you have your double, come here like this, and I just steal that card with the thumb, and it's right there for me to put the card in. So that's the basic method if you're just kind of setting up for this. I often just do this beforehand and have the card start in here if I'm just performing it, you know, for the camera or something. Now, you want to make sure everything's nice and square. Make sure the decks is square, so I just kind of square everything up on top and on the bottom like this against the back thumb. Come over top, square these cards. And now you're going to hold it like this. So you have 3 fingers on the bottom, your pinky, ring, and middle finger, thumb on top with the index curled on the face of the deck, okay? Essentially what you're doing is you're coming up with the middle finger, or the index finger, and that's what's gonna push the cards through, okay? So this is in your left hand, because you don't really wanna push through with the right hand and then pull up. So from an exposed view, as you push with the middle finger, this card comes out, and it's just timing. This finger's coming around. You just hold it with one finger, and the index finger is going to come contact this, and it's going to pivot around the thumb and get stuck back in the middle of the deck like that. Okay, so that is the mechanics of the change. So again, let's get in this position here. Okay. I like to do this. You don't have to. It kind of makes it more theatrical, but start this hand back here, come around. When you get about halfway, this finger shoots up, starts the push, and it just times it. So now when it's back here, that card is sticking out, and you can do it in one nice round motion. Otherwise, you can just start back here, push through and pull up like this and do the change. But I do think it looks nice if you kind of add that big fluid motion, makes it look a little bit more fancy. So this finger is going to start here, come around. This one shoots forward about here, pushes it back through. This comes around and catches it. So you have that nice circular rotation, hence the rotary control. But again, those mechanics are pretty basic. So this is your grip, this comes through, pushes, and then you just time it so that this finger's coming underneath, and it's just pushing up. It's not pulling, it's literally just flicking it up. I like to get on about the first knuckle joint of this finger, and it's going to contact, you can see it's about right below the nail of the thumb, and it rotates around and basically goes right back in to the middle of the deck. Okay, and it's that easy. That's all it is. Now, one problem you might have is that the card is not going through, or is going through not all the way. It's just because you don't have enough friction. So let's see if I can get that to happen purposely here. But it definitely does happen. Now you see it's gonna work every time now. Sometimes you'll push it in and it won't really come out. Like, you see how that barely came out, and it was out so far. And like I said, however far out that card is how far this card should push back if you have a perfect sort of frictional force and there's no loss of any of the forces. So if it doesn't work, what's happening is you're not creating enough friction, and the card is just slipping and not pushing the other one through, and that's just a problem with forces. So there could be a couple problems. If you're pinching the deck too tightly, you'd think that it's going to increase the frictional forces. Because we're squeezing the deck on the side, we're increasing the forces this way rather than the forces we want downwards on the deck, right? So think of it like this. If I squeeze the deck down like this, it's just hard to do, but if I'm also adding pressure on top, it's going to work every time because there's a lot of force compressing that card onto the other one, which is going to create that friction to push the other card out. There'll be no slip, okay? If I squeeze from the sides, you're actually counterintuitively, you're creating force in the opposite direction. when you're pushing against the sides, you're creating resistance for that card in the middle. So now it needs even more frictional force to overcome your fingers squeezing to come through the back. Because see, if you squeeze really tightly and push through, nothing's coming out the back because these fingers are holding that card in place. So you don't want to squeeze tight. You actually want to hold really lightly, okay? So if you hold really lightly, then that card will come through no problem, okay? Another thing, I don't know exactly what, but I do find sometimes with humidity, different humidity levels. Again, I'm not sure if it's high humidity, low humidity, but I've noticed sometimes the humidity conditions can have an effect on this. But your main thing is grip the sides lightly, and then don't go too fast. If you go fast, your forces are more susceptible to slip, and the card won't push through as far. So don't go too fast, but if you go really slow and light, it'll work perfectly. But again, we don't want to go too slow for the change, so you want to have a nice balance. So again, if it's not working, just slow down and press lighter with these fingers here, and you should have no problem getting that card to come through. Now, another problem is doing the actual rotation here. You might come and miss the deck, and the card will go flying or it'll fall. It's all about being even, okay? So this finger, you want to come and apply a nice pressure in the middle. Again, I use that little notch of my knuckle here, and then it comes over top of the thumb, and you just want to make sure the pressure is even. So watch, it comes straight back in, okay? You don't want to go to the side. That's your only problem. If you're missing, it's because you're pushing to the side either direction. So that's just something that comes with practice. I still mess that up sometimes too, because you come fast and you miss, but eventually you'll get the hang of bringing that card straight over and in like that. Now that's another reason I like to do this right in the middle, because then I have the most sort of leeway on each side. If you're way up at the top here and you go to do this, there's a good chance you'll go outside. Now sometimes you can kind of save it, it'll come through and it'll go right on the back like this, and you can just kind of pinch it like that, and it still kind of looks like it's in the middle of the deck. Or sometimes it'll come out the front and you can grip it like that as a sort of save, but again, ideally that's not what happens. So let's go into the regular load. So the basic way, I'm gonna go into some different ways to load it and the other uses and ideas, but the basic load is essentially what I already covered. You just take that card into this grip, and you do this right in front of people, and it just takes practice. Again, if you can't just have it set up and then you start from here, but if you're doing this in front of people, you're gonna wanna have their card or whatever, and you riffle down and you kind of tilt the deck up towards you so that they can't see that you're kind of fiddling and you're sticking a card in between. So you just tilt the deck up like this to riffle, bring the thumb back up to pull down that top card. Now you have a really easy window to load that double on. But once you get the hang of it, it really only takes an extra second to kind of get that card in the right spot, and you're good to go, and people don't really notice it. All right, so in terms of some subtleties, one thing I really like to make clear with this is it's a little bit different, right? Most color changes are happening, you know, the card is changing and the card's in the same spot the whole time, right? And it changes. With this, the card is sort of coming out somewhere else, and so it's more susceptible to be picked up as a card switch. So one of the ways to avoid that I've found is to just show your hands openly. Once that card's in the middle, show there's nothing in your hands, because someone might think you have a card hidden back here that you're kind of stealing out. So it kind of really camouflages the potential for a switch, and it makes it feel like if you push this card in, a lot of people think that that's the card that's going to come out. Obviously that doesn't make sense, right? Because if we're pushing this in halfway, then it's going to be all the way in the deck. It's not going to come out another halfway. I would have to push that card all the way through to get it to come out halfway, right? Based on the math, the card would have to be a card and a half long for that to make sense. But no one's ever going to think about that, right? That's just something I think about. So showing very fairly that you're empty like this just before you go into the change is a nice subtlety that I love to employ. And another one is after I do the change here. So I come here, boom, I let them take the card out because it's one card now, you're clean, right? So that's another little thing that it'll make them believe that that card was always one. Time for some body language. So body language with this is smooth, is really important. It's just about having that motion fluid from inserting the card to just doing that nice rotation like this. All very fluid, very nice, smooth, and you want to do it at a good speed, fairly quick, and it'll just look really good, really visual that way. So time for some uses and other ideas. So I'm going to show you how you can actually control what cards you switch if instead of just doing it randomly. So obviously, let's say we want to change the Jack of Spades for the Six of Hearts. So presumably one of these is going to be their card that they chose or whatever. So it's really easy to do this one. You could just do a top change or whatever, place it on top, and now you've loaded your double, right? So now this card is the one we're going to change for the Six of Hearts. The Six of Hearts would want to be on top of the deck. So the first way, the more easy way to do this is just leave the Six of Hearts on top, okay? Get a little pinky break, right? And then you bring the deck up like this, and you just kind of release the pressure with the thumb, and the pinky break opens up, and you can stick that card right on like this. So you're just tilting it up away from your audience, quickly sliding that card in, and as you come back down, it just looks like you've placed the card on top of the deck, right? From both angles, it looks like the Jack's on top of the deck, but actually, you've sandwiched that six. Now you're gonna come like this, sort of do a Hindu cut, sandwich it in the middle. You can show and come and do the change, and you've changed successfully the Jack of Spades for the Six of Hearts. So if for whatever reason you're doing a routine and you wanted to change for a specific card and not just a random card, that's how you could do it. Another way, the card you want to switch is going to go on the bottom of the deck, the card you want to switch for, and their card will assume that they chose it or whatever. It can be on the top or whatever. They chose it, but as they're signing it, you're going to cut the six into the middle and hold a break below it, okay? Now, as you're holding your break, you're going to come here and do the top change, put that card on top, and get your double, okay? Now you can hold your card like this, and as you go to riffle, you're going to kick the deck over at the pinky break to create a step. You can see how I created a step here. Okay, so again, this is the more advanced method. So let me show that again. So I have my pinky break, and I just push with these fingers, push the deck towards my thumb, and I create a step. And now I know that six is gonna be right there. So I just open up at the step with the thumb, okay? And now I'm basically in the same position as the load. I can come and just peel that card off with the thumb, and just take these cards and just sandwich them onto their selection. There's another option where the six starts on top and you hold a break below it, and then you do the same thing, you kick over, and then you're gonna riffle the six up instead of doing the pull down from the top. So whichever way you find is easier. I personally find having the six at the bottom, getting the break below it, doing the step. And again, this is all hidden because once you do the step, you bring the deck up like this, and then it kind of looks like you've just sort of picked a random position. You're not gonna wanna flash that six, so I just usually turn sideways a bit, kind of like this, and I get that split, and the rest just happens towards you. It's hidden like everything else is, and then you kind of come here, and you have the Jack change for the six. So that is a little bit more advanced, but you're just getting a step, kicking over, and you're coming up to hide, peeling that card off like this, and you're doing your load. Every time we do this load, the big angle to cover is to just lift the deck up like this, and then they can't really see that you're jamming a card in between these two as you go for the change, right? Now, the last thing I want to show you guys is how to do a multi-card change. So let's say we want to change the red jacks for the black fours. So this you can do with even more than a 2-card change, but I think that's kind of the best, the max limit for this. This is actually pretty easy, because what happens is now you don't have to get a double. You can show these cards separate as 2, and you can put them in even just 1 at a time, and then that makes it super easy to sandwich cards in between it, okay? So if I was doing this with random cards, I'd take one of them, put it in anywhere, take the other, and now I can riffle and get 2 cards and just stop on 2 cards by feel, right? And you can stick that card in there, but from here, it just looks like you're taking that card, putting it right behind it. Then I can do a split. I love this moment. You split them. You can show there's nothing, just these. Now we're transferring into our regular grip, squaring everything up. And the plunger principle here works the exact same. It's gonna push 2 cards out, and you do the exact same thing. They'll stay together, and once they're here, you come and you just split them again, and you've done a change. Now, if we want to change for specific cards, which I think makes a little bit more sense with this kind of routine, you're going to want to start with those 2 on top and a pinky break underneath, and you can either do method 1, where you kind of open that break a little bit as you come up, and you stick 1 card in and the other card in like this, and you want to have them square because then it looks like they're both on top, and you can do that Hindu cut into the middle. Or you can start with these 2 on the bottom, cut them into the middle, do the step, riffle off 2 with this thumb. Again, this is a little bit more challenging, but But then the nice part here is you don't have to be secretive, right? You can just take these two and put them in sideways like this and sandwich those cards, right? Just slide them in like this at an angle. And because we're not fiddling with trying to not make the cards split, it's a lot easier and just way faster to come in and put those two cards in and do the move. So it is almost easier with two cards because you don't have to hide that whole thing, but it looks really great. So what I like to do is split them, show my hands are empty, and I come over top, square everything up, execute the plunger principle, and split these top cards and show they've changed and everything is clean. All right, guys, I hope you absolutely love the rotary change. It's pretty versatile and a pretty cool little change. Can be a little tricky to set up, but some of the easier variations when you're setting up on the top, or even honestly, when you riffle down and then bring that thumb back up and pull the top card down, really easy to load that way. So there's a lot of options with the rotary change. It's really nice, really visual, and that's why I love it. I love the fluidity of the motion, and I think it just looks really cool. So it's a really fun change. Play around with it, see if you guys come up with anything cool, and let me know if you do. Welcome all the new subs. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'd love to know what kind of videos you guys like from me. So let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite videos of mine to watch? Is it me performing, tutorials, how to make your magic better, Omega magic, behind the screens, the slide off? Let me know what your favorite videos are to watch, guys. I would really love to know. But with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.